The reason why Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life is the best of all holiday season films is because it avoids the cliché at the heart of the genre. A selfish and cruel person, almost always with money, influence, and power, realizes the error of their ways and is transformed into someone renewed by kindness and empathy. Capra's 1946 classic is made better because it avoids the formula, even though it is there for it to be that film. Courtesy of Lionel Barrymore's heartless and avaricious Mr. Potter. Potter is Ebenezer Scrooge, the character at the center of the story that invented the genre itself, Charles Dickens' 1843 novella, A Christmas Carol. Potter cares only about himself, and making money and hoarding it, and his cruelty and its effects seem to fuel his very existence. In a lesser movie, it would be Potter who, through whatever plot device is employed, has the epiphany that provides for his transformation. This is the case in virtually every film inspired by Dickens, from Bill Murray in both Scrooged, a direct take on Dickens' story, and Groundhog Day to the 2000 animated movie The Emperor's New Groove. The power of It's a Wonderful Life, which was indeed inspired by Dickens in the form of a 1943 short story by Philip Van Doren Stern called The Greatest Gift, is that the protagonist who has a powerful and life-changing epiphany is a kind and decent everyman who fails to realize what he has and the profound impact he has had on the people around him. It is difficult for most of us to see ourselves as Dickens' Scrooge or even Bill Murray's narcissistic weatherman Phil from Groundhog Day, but we can see ourselves in Jimmy Stewart's George Bailey. We know what it is to have dreams that are dashed, to have money that dwindles to nothing, and to feel as if our life has little to no meaning. There might be another cliché at the heart of It's a Wonderful Life, but clichés become clichés because they're rooted in some sort of truth. And the cliché here is the clearest and most universal of them all. Treat others with kindness, empathy, and respect, and the world will be a better place, even if the effect is small, incremental, and unnoticed except by those whose lives are made better by it. The film's power is undeniable, although it was deemed a box office disappointment upon its release. Despite Capra and Stewart considering it among the best films they ever made, it did not reach a wide audience until the film's copyright lapsed in the 1970s, and ubiquitous television broadcasting of it turned it into a holiday staple. It was among the first group of films entered into the Library of Congress's National Film Registry, and the American Film Institute named it the most inspirational film of all time in 2006. The film begins on a snowy Christmas Eve with voiceover prayers from friends and family in Bedford Falls concerned for George, who has become severely depressed.
George Bailey, help him, dear Father. Joseph, Jesus, and Mary, help my friend, Mr. Bailey.
Help my son George tonight.
We learn that he is contemplating ending his life, but the prayers result in an apprentice guardian angel being sent to protect him. The conversation among angels is clunky and more than a little cheesy, but the movie is saved before we give up on it because, before he appears, the angel is shown moments from George's life. It's a beautiful tool for exposition as we learn about George with the angel. George saves his brother Harry from drowning in a frozen pond, saves another person from accidental poisoning through a mistake made by his boss, the local pharmacist, and saves his father's business, the local building and loan, after his father's sudden stroke.
George, they voted Potter down. They want to keep it going.
Hey!
You did it, George. You did it. They got one condition. Only one condition.
What's that?
And that's the best part of it. They've appointed George here as executive secretary to take his father's place.
Oh, no, but Uncle Billy is...
You can keep him on, that's all right. As secretary, you can hire anyone you like.
Dr. Cameron, now let's get this thing straight. I'm leaving right now. I'm going to school. This is my last chance. Uncle Billy here, he's your man.
But George, they'll vote with Potter otherwise.
The last results in his travel and college tuition money going to his brother instead of himself, and a series of bad breaks keep George trapped in town, and he is unable to have a honeymoon or chase any of his dreams. It is crushing because George and his wife Mary are good people, and the honeymoon is lost because Mary urges George to use the money to head off a bank panic that would have ended the building and loan. Saving it means countless people have the opportunity to own a home without being held down in slums by Potter and his bank. But George's fuzzy-headed Uncle Billy ultimately loses $8,000, nearly $140,000 today, which threatens to leave George facing bank fraud charges. What George cannot see is how lucky he is to have a loving wife, and wonderful children, a brother who worships him, and a town full of people who are able to buy homes and chase their own dreams because of George's benevolence. He has everything he needs to live a wonderful life, even if he doesn't realize it. George ends up on a bridge, ready to jump into a river, but before he can, the unseen angel falls in and George, appropriately, dives in to save him. Back on land, George says he wishes he had never been born.
I suppose it'd been better if I'd never been born at all.
What'd you say?
I said I wish I'd never been born.
Oh, you mustn't say things like that. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's an idea. What do you think? Yeah, that'll do it. All right. You've got your wish. You've never been born.
As a way to show him the value of his life, the angel creates an alternate timeline without George and his influence. Harry drowns in that pond and never wins the Medal of Honor in World War II, and the men whose lives he would have saved end up dying. Mr. Gower, the pharmacist, goes to jail for accidentally poisoning a customer and is ruined. George's wife, Mary, never marries and lives as a lonely, scared librarian. His children are never born. The town itself is a rundown hovel called Pottersville because George never existed to check Mr. Potter's influence and power. George begs for his life back. When Clarence the angel grants him his wish, George rushes home to his family. There, the townspeople flood his home with donations to save George from his debt, repaying the kindness that he showed to them.
Toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.
Clarence, who gets his wings as a full-fledged angel, leaves a copy of Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer with an inscription urging George to remember that no man is a failure who has friends, which he reads as everyone sings Auld Lang Syne. I defy anyone to refrain from crying in those closing moments. It's not possible. In the right hands, it would be emotional even if the protagonist were Potter and not George. But the scenario here has so much more meaning. All of us take our lives and our situations for granted to some extent. We focus on hardships and bad breaks at the expense of remembering what we have and, more importantly, who we have in our lives. We fail to consider the positive impact we've had on people's lives through innumerable interactions and conversations. It seems impossible for the film to have even more power, but it does when you watch Stewart's performance aware of what was happening in his life as he made the movie. The iconic actor served in World War II as a bomber pilot, and by war's end, he was suffering from debilitating PTSD. He came home a damaged actor who hadn't worked in 5 years. He lived briefly with his mother and father in the same Pennsylvania house in which he grew up. He wasn't sure he would even continue acting. If he did, he wanted to do a comedy after the darkness and horror of the war. But Capra, with whom Stewart had worked on You Can't Take It With You and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, convinced him that It's a Wonderful Life was their ticket back to Hollywood after the war. Stewart reluctantly agreed. The moment George finds himself on that bridge, contemplating whether to jump, is more harrowing and dramatic when you know that Stewart channeled his trauma and own doubts about life into his performance in that moment. The emotion is real. Over the course of filming and through conversations with Barrymore, Stewart, the man, realized that life has value and you can make it a better place for people, even if it means providing 2 hours of escape and hope in the middle of doubt and turmoil. It's a Wonderful Life is one of the greatest films ever made because it's about the common person and the difference that all of us make in the world, even if we don't realize it. Steven Spielberg, who has called Capra's movie among his personal favorites, said it's a tribute to the value of every human life on Earth. Seeing Stewart, the man and the actor, embracing his wife and children on Christmas Eve, surrounded by friends and family, and realizing that his life is an amazing gift, is a moment that can never grow old. It's an eternal image, and one that I look forward to watching and crying over every year.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right.